Hi everybody, and welcome back to Rebellious Menstruation. I'm doing a review of the Diva Cup today. It's written on the inside of the cup. This is a size 2, and I have got a clear one. I think they only come in this colour, to be honest. Just a couple of kind of things to say first, I guess. I've noticed that Diva Cup has got quite a bit of a bashing in the media, or at least in the menstrual cup community recently. It's kind of one of those issues that comes up sometimes when newer or other cups come along, and this one is really readily available. It's probably one of the few menstrual cups that I've come across that is readily available everywhere. So kind of as a consequence, a lot of the time this cup is actually the first cup that most people, that a lot of people get. And, you know, unless you do your research first to find out what type of cup is going to be perfect for you, or at least maybe there might not be one but 2 or 3 cups, what ends up happening is this may not be your perfect cup. It's actually not my perfect cup. And the truth is I did pick this cup up because it was readily accessible in a local shop. And I'm in Australia. We don't get postage to Australia from anywhere. It's actually quite high, which I'll run through a little bit later. But you know, the fact that you can go and pick this up, I think it's about $50, or like just under $50, between like $45 and $50, from Chemist Warehouse, which is like a kind of a generic catch-all place in Australia, or catch-all kind of pharmacy, I guess. And so when you go and get this and it's not perfect, I found that quite a few menstrual influencers have kind of said quite kind of bad things about this cup, when really it's just not the perfect cup for them. And obviously recently with the introduction of the Tampax cup, and Tampax obviously did a significant amount of research, and you'll quite often hear certain influencers, I've seen probably 4 or 5 of these videos now, where they talk about having scans with cups in and all of this type of money that was funneled into Tampax doing their research, which is great, which is fantastic. But a small company like this is not necessarily going to be able to do it. And a small company, this is actually a Canadian company that produces the Diva Cup. The fact that it's been out and in shops and out there in the public eye, and it is readily accessible. Some people may not feel comfortable with ordering on the internet, or some people may find the postage and handling fees, which to Australia can be up to $25 or $30. So when you're spending $50 on a cup, sometimes with the conversion rate it can be $60 or $70, and then, you know, it makes a $50 cup $100. The fact that this is readily accessible and easily accessible makes it really, really good. Unfortunately for some people, it means it just doesn't mean it's your Goldilocks cup. It's not mine. But I don't kind of really approve of this kind of current trend of bashing the Diva Cup just because it exists in a market. And it certainly doesn't, or at least didn't start out with the funds that something like Tampax would have. Anyway, enough of my rant. Probably a bit further information about menstrual cups. I'm doing the Diva Cup first just because this is the one that I got the first time. If you've seen my menstrual cup stash, which is, I don't know, uploaded a little while ago, you'll see the cups that I do have and the cups that I will be reviewing. I just recently got a Lali cup in, so I'll be testing that out next cycle. But cups in general collect menstrual fluid rather than absorbing it. They are predominantly made from medical grade silicone, as actually certainly is this Diva Cup. They last between 5 and 10 years. They can also, the kind of a couple of smaller cups. I know there's a New Zealand company called Hello Cup that uses TPE or thermoplastic elastomer, and that lasts about 5 years. So this will last up to 10 with obviously care. Cups are not associated with toxic shock syndrome, which tampons are. Neither are pads, by the way, so pads are not associated with toxic shock syndrome either. The reason why tampons specifically are associated with toxic shock syndrome is because they absorb, and when they absorb everything in your vaginal canal, which means they actually are changing your flora, your vaginal canal flora, and they're changing the balance that happens in your vaginal canal, and the consequence of this is that it can actually allow bacteria to grow, and this can occasionally, it is actually rare even in tampons, this does occasionally and rarely will lead to toxic shock syndrome. In addition, the frequent changing of tampons can cause abrasions and, as I mentioned, vaginal dryness. And if you have nails, you can, if you scratch the inside wall of your vaginal canal and then the tampon has dried it out, this is then allowed obviously bacteria to grow. I've noticed that some of the media, obviously released by certain companies, who have a vested interest in something like a 10-year menstrual product not surviving, have released that there have been cases with toxic shock associated with menstrual cups. But if you actually look into these two cases, one, the alleged cases, one woman had Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is a abnormal immune disease, or it causes abnormal immune responses to certain things, and on top of that she had menorrhea, menorrhagia, I think that's how it's said, which is basically heavy menstrual bleeding, and like these two in essentially it wouldn't have mattered what she was using. The fact that her body, essentially her immune system, was exceptionally low, and she had exceptionally heavy bleeding. This caused several things to happen, including toxic shock. The second woman, alleged case, she actually left the cup in without removing it for 7 days. Do not do that. Never do that. Please, for the love of God, never do that. Do not leave this in for longer than 24 hours. Even if you are a light flow or it's on one of your light days, remove it, wash it out before putting it back in. Okay, so back onto the Diva Cup. This was founded in 2001 by the mother and daughter team Francine and Corinne Chambers in Canada. It is made of medical grade silicone, and it does not contain latex, plastic, PVC, acrylic or BPA, and it does not also contain dyes and colours. It is compliant with the US's FDA, Health Canada, and the Australian TPG, which is a therapeutic goods. I think it's the Therapeutic Goods Administration. There's the problem with always using acronyms, and okay. So the Therapeutic Goods Administration is at TGA, that's the Australian one. It's been approved by all three for sale. This is possibly why it's available on a lot of shelves in Australia. It's a certified B Corporation, which obviously when you B Corporation certification comes with they are legally required to consider their impact on workers, consumers, customers, suppliers, community, and environmental consequences of the supply chain. So B corporations are environmentally good. These are manufactured in Canada and come in 2 sizes. Model 1, which is a size smaller than this, but barely, is 57 centimetres long, 43 millimetres in diameter, and a 24 ml capacity. This is 57 centimetres long. When they talk about 57 millimetres long, they talk about it to here. They don't include this little stem. It was 46 centimetres in diameter, so it is 3 centimetres bigger and a 28 ml capacity. When they talk about capacity, they talk about it to under the holes. It does have these grip wings and this little stem. I haven't actually cut the stem off, but you'll see if I do the linnet, I cut the linnets off because the linnet stem was a lot longer. I did use this for the first couple of periods that I had this with, but it does push on my bladder. It also probably just has something to do with my vaginal canal, to be honest. It does drop down and sits quite far down, and so this, even though this doesn't annoy me when it's properly placed kind of above my pubic bone, because it drops and it pulls down, this will quite often actually come out and sit in between my labia, which actually gets a bit annoying. Outside of that, it is actually very easy to put in and pull out. It does come in this original little bag, which is actually a very cute little bag with little ribbons here. I have these. This is a little mermaid cup with a mermaid tail print. It is this little bag, and this is the print on the inside, which is a cotton, and on this outside is organic bamboo velour. This is just a little piece of, I might actually replace this, to be honest. It catches on my fingers quite a bit. This is from a Etsy seller called Kitty Cat Cloth. You can look her up on Etsy. She is a American pad maker as well. There is a review of her pads going up. So it does come in a little bag originally, and for ease of carry around as well. So yeah, I did have a few issues with it when I put it in. I use a punch down fold, so that's the entry point. It does pop out quite often. I think the first couple of times I use this, it is actually quite a firm cup and quite a firm lid too. So the first, I think, couple of times I used it, when I actually had put it in, I'd ran my finger around. It felt like it had popped out, but it must not have. And as I was walking along, like up the hallway, it all of a sudden popped out. That is the weirdest feeling you are ever going to have. It is very weird. Outside of that, it did actually do the job. It sealed perfectly fine. And once it was in right, apart from the fact that it did drop down a bit and kind of wedge itself too far down, it was great. It's just not my Goldilocks cup. And it is exceptionally firm. As you can tell, it bounces back really quick. Other ones don't do this. But is it it's very, very firm, and I just needed to go to the bathroom a lot. It pushed on my bladder quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the, probably in my stash, it's probably one of the last ones that I would go to and pull out. And however, I don't have anything bad to say. I don't have anything bad to say about the company itself, or particularly about the cup. It just didn't really match what I needed it to do. And that's my review of the Canadian-made Diva Cup. Maybe you can see it better that way. Outside of that, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you have any questions, you can ask me below. you can, and also in the section below is the contact details. I have Tumblr, Twitter, email, and obviously YouTube and Instagram. Other than that, thanks for listening.